I'm Jack Sharkey, and the following podcast is going to break down and teach you how to learn the C2C role. This video is going to be applicable for people who want to get their 3-star BC kayaking assessments and for people who want to learn the role to aid their kayaking disciplines. Now, before we start learning, we need the right equipment. There are a few essential pieces of equipment you will need to learn the role. First off, the boat. Now, depending on which boat you have, will make the role easier or harder to do. For example, here we have a standard canoe polo boat. From the cockpit to the hull, it is rounded. So when it's in the water, the boat will rotate easily with little resistance. Here we have a play boat or river on a boat, and as you can see, there is a hard edge and the hull is flat. So when you're in the water, these edges will create resistance, making it harder for you to turn the boat over. Once you've picked your boat, it's important to get in the boat and make sure you're securely fitted. So you'll get in your boat, and you need to make sure your feet are touching the footrests and you're securely in place with your thigh rests and backrest. It's important that you are able to maintain a dynamic seating position and you have full control over your boat. With the boat, it is important to include variation. So make sure when you're starting to roll, practice with a number of different boats so you can learn and refine the technique. And it makes you think about the skill when breaking it down. Next off, we have the paddles. Any paddle will do. You can have a crankshaft or straight shaft paddle. And to hold it, make sure it's just over shoulder width apart. Over 90 degree angle should be there at your elbows. And with your dominant hand, you should grip the blade, and the loose hand is just for control. On top of this, you will have your spray deck to stop water getting in the boat and simple safety equipment including buoyancy aid and helmet. Next thing we do, we need to find where we're going to practice doing the role. So with regards to venue, I recommend starting in a pool or sheltered lagoon, like this one for example. This is because there is less environmental factors to worry about when practicing the skill, such as moving water or wind, so you can focus specifically on the skill at hand. Now that we've sorted equipment and venue out, we're now going to look at the skill and break it down for you. The C2C roll is effectively a recovery stroke, which is used to rewrite a capsized boat. The skill can be broken down into 3 specific phases: the starting position, the hip flick, and the recovery. I'll start by showing you the starting position. So you've capsized and your body's underwater. The first thing to do is to position your body so you can perform a hip flick. Also, you need to move the blade so it can act as leverage and support for the stroke. So first of all, you would lean to either side of your boat and put the blades out of the water. The blades are now parallel to the boat. Next thing to do is turn the blades 90 degrees so your blade is now perpendicular to the boat. One blade will be above the boat and the other will be near the surface of the water. This has now created your leverage for the roll. We are now going to look at the roll in action. Once the paddler is capsized, the first thing is to raise the paddle out of the water. As you can see, it is now parallel to the boat. Next thing he must do is rotate the blade 90 degrees to create leverage and support for the stroke. With the blade moved, one blade will be above the boat while the other is near the surface of the water. We're now going to move on to the second phase of the roll, which is the hip flick. The hip flick is the most important phase, as this is where all the power comes from for rotating your boat. So from the end of the last phase, the paddle was in the leverage position. And from here, you use your hips to rotate your boat while the blade is used to support on top of the water. As this happens, make sure your body rotates to the other side of the boat, leaving your head and shoulders in the water, as these will be the last things to leave. As you can see, with the downward strike of the paddle, the hips are used to rotate the boat, while leaving the head in the water at all times. We now move on to the final phase of the roll. This is the recovery. So from the end position of the hip flick, your head should still be in the water. With the recovery, this will be the last thing to leave, and you throw your weight forward to the centre line of the boat. This maintains stability of the boat and gets your body positioned into the dynamic seated position, ready to carry on paddling. With the paddler's head leaving the water last, his weight is thrown forward to the centre line of the boat to maintain stability. Now watch the next few videos and try and pinpoint the 3 distinct phases as you watch. Now it's your turn to go away and practice. For safety reasons, whenever you go kayaking, make sure you're always with someone. So if you get into trouble, they can help you out. When you go to learn the skill, if you have someone there of the same gender and ability, it will help you to bounce ideas off each other and to learn the skill a lot faster. Now with your progression, it's important to have include goal setting and to log your progression as you go. For example, with the environment, you would start off in a pool or sheltered lagoon like this one, and then progress onto moving water, for example in the middle of a large lake, calm sea, and then onto harder grade rivers and even surf in the sea. Also, maintain variability. The most important thing I'll say during this podcast is when you learn to roll, make sure you practice on both sides. If you practice on one side, you will start to become dependent and it will be harder for you to transfer this skill to the other side. You can also include variability, as I mentioned earlier, by changing the boat. So make sure you practice in polo boats, sea kayaks, whitewater boats, anything you can get your hands on. Of course, this will help you to refine the skill and get to learn the basics and make you think about the skill a lot more. Also in the pool, you could have someone to vary your starting position. You can have people push you in unexpectedly. Or you could start off with the paddle in one hand, paddle on your head. This gets you to start thinking about setting up into that right position. So, now it's time for me to shut up and for you to go away and practice.